Hey folks, Alan Saunders with Pittsburgh Sports Now. Thanks again for joining us on a Pitt game week, and we try every week to talk to someone who can give us some perspective from the other side. And this week, we're talking to Jonas Pope, who covers NC State in advance of this Saturday's game between the Wolfpack and the Panthers at Heinz Field. Jonas, thanks for joining us. You're new to the NC State beat, but I'm sure that you can give us some good insight, more than the Panthers fans are aware, since North Carolina State isn't a team that we see up in these parts all that often. And the last time we saw them was 2017, a very talented football team led by Jalen Samuels, among others, that took pretty good care of the Panthers. This squad seems pretty different from an offensive perspective. What's the deal with this Wolfpack team, and what are they bringing to Pittsburgh on Saturday?
Yeah, well, first of all, Alan, I want to say thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invite. Second of all, I would tell Pittsburgh fans that this definitely is not the same team that came to Pittsburgh in 2017. That 2017 team had a defensive line who all went to the NFL. They had a bunch of other draft picks all over the roster on both sides of the ball. This team has some issues coming into Heinz Field on Saturday, mainly on the defensive side of the ball. They gave up 45 points to Virginia Tech. They gave up 42 to Wake Forest in week one. So you can pick your spots if you're offense. I imagine if you're Pittsburgh, you're probably foaming at the mouth at the chance to go against this defense on Saturday. So they have some issues on that side of the ball that they need to be taken care of. And I don't know if they have enough time in the week to address them before they head up to Pittsburgh on Saturday. And on offense, they're still trying to, I guess, settle in on a quarterback. In 2017, Ryan Finley was the guy who was an established guy playing quarterback for NC State. Right now, Bailey Hockman has started the last two games, but I don't know if NC State's really sold on Bailey Hockman because Devin Leary was supposed to be the guy, but Devin Leary missed some time during camp because of contact tracing with COVID. So he didn't start or play in game one. Then he came off the bench with many thought it was way too late in game two. So honestly, I don't know which quarterback Pittsburgh's going to see on Saturday. I mean, we'll find out later in this week, hopefully. Dave Doran can be kind of secretive about this sort of thing. But, yeah, there are more questions than answers for NC State heading up to Pittsburgh on Saturday.
Yeah, the quarterback is very interesting to me, and I think, two very different guys, too. It's not like, down to which way they want to throw the ball. But what do those two guys bring to the table? And maybe, I guess, so far, what have they shown this season?
I'll start with Devin Leary. We haven't seen as big of a sample size of Leary. He came in late against Virginia Tech. And, the thing about Leary is he was supposed to be the starter. So, and you can see that in his small sample size we saw on Saturday. He has a big-time arm, can make all the throws. Like I said, he just missed time at camp. So Bailey Hockman kind of jumped him. Bailey Hockman is a guy who he plays with a lot of heart, puts it all on the line, but makes too many mistakes. I mean, this is entering week three. He's already thrown 3 interceptions, one that was returned for a touchdown. He started out 12 for 12 against Wake Forest, but then he started out 1 for first 6 against Virginia Tech. So I don't know if we even know who Bailey Hockman is, the real Bailey Hockman is at this point. So Devin Leary brings a big-time arm. He led NC State to 2 scoring drives in his limited duty last week. Bailey Hockman has a bigger resume through the first couple of games, but again, he's prone to turn the ball over. So Dave Doran said it's been close at camp, but I think the Wolfpack Nation really wants Leary to get the start, and he was supposed to be the guy, so let's go ahead and go with him. Again, it's a question mark. We'll find out probably very last minute before the game on Saturday, but two different guys who bring a different kind of dynamic. Devin Leary was known more of a dual threat guy coming out of high school. Bailey was more of a traditional guy, pro style type quarterback. So if you get Devin in there, he can do it both ways. He didn't run at all against Virginia Tech. Bailey did more running. Some of that running was for his life at times, but Devin is a guy who they'll probably call some design runs for. Bailey's more of a staying in the pocket and make all kind of throws. So depending on which quarterback Pittsburgh lines up against, you don't know what you're going to get. Hopefully they prepare for both throughout the week. I imagine that coaching staff is smart enough to know that they need to prepare for both guys because we don't even know which quarterback we're going to see yet on Saturday.
Yeah, Pat Narduzzi has some of those same tendencies as well when it comes to not wanting to tip his hand about who's going to play. And I imagine either quarterback is probably going to do at least a little bit of running for their life if Pitt's defensive line continues its performance it's had so far through 3 games. Um, Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver, particularly the 2 defensive ends, have done really well. But talking about Dave Doeren, he's a guy that has a number of ties to people in this city. Him and Charlie Partridge, Pitt's defensive line coach, go way back to their days at Drake. And, of course, Matt Canada and Eddie Faulkner with the Steelers are former Doeren assistants. You're talking about a team that has big problems on defense, that isn't quite sure who its quarterback is. Coming into week 3 of his season, this is not early in Doran's tenure at NC State. What's the mood around his coaching status? Is he a potential guy that's on the hot seat here?
If you ask NC State fans, he's been on the hot seat every year for the last 2 seasons. So, yes, I think if you ask the fans, then yes. I think if you ask anyone inside the athletic program, right now, they would say no, just because it's a pandemic year, it's a COVID year. So so many other things that, I don't think any AD would stand to fire a coach during the COVID, during a pandemic, especially when they're not making money, they're doing furloughs, and they're not bringing in the money that they would need to pay any buyouts. If things got really, really bad, though, I mean, they don't win another game until they face Liberty in November, then, yeah, his seat will definitely warm up. But I think some people are willing to give him a pass, maybe look the other way considering all this happening. But still, he knows, and everyone around him, around the city knows that, like, they better win some games. Like, this thing better not get ugly as it has the potential to do. I mean, like you said, his defense is amazing. And if they come up here and lay an egg and it gets real ugly, yeah, that seat's definitely going to warm up, pandemic or not.
This is a game is a 2-touchdown spread here. What if NC State does come up and surprise some people and pull it out? What does that game look like to you? How what is their path to victory if they're able to figure things out?
I think the path. I mean, I'm a big believer that to have success in an upset, you need some luck, you need some balls to bounce your way. So State has to come up with some turnovers. They've only forced 1 turnover through the first 2 games. So they last year they weren't the best team to get the interceptions, but they have to fix that. They have to get some interceptions, force some fumbles. Some luck has to go their way. Maybe Pitt muffs a punt, or maybe Pitt, drops a pass that could have gone that could have converted a first down and turns the ball over on downs, or switches the chains. Something has to go State's way on the luck side of it. And then offensively, they have to start fast in the first and third quarter. That's something that killed NC State last year. They just couldn't get any points coming out the game and coming out of halftime. They've done better this year. Even though they had a slow start against Virginia Tech, they did better in the third quarter. In the second half against Wake Forest, they had 21 points in the first quarter. So they have to wake up. They have to get going early. I know there won't be a crowd to kind of pump some crowd noise to and get them going. It's gonna be an early game, the first time they've played at noon. But they talked about it this week in practice. Like, we have to bring the energy from the start and get going and not do another slow start. Against this team, against that defense, they can't get behind the chains. They can't play on a long field. They have to shorten the field. But, yeah, if they can get some luck, some turnovers to bounce their way and start fast, then, who knows. But if those things don't happen, it could be a long day for the boys from Raleigh.
Well, not to make the Pitt fans feel too nervous about this game, but I do think some of those things line up with some of the things that have given Pitt some trouble so far this year, especially on offense. Kenny Pickett turned the ball over twice against Louisville, a fumble and an interception. They've had a number of drops, and that's something that was a big problem for them last season that really held their offense back. And they've also been really highly penalized this year. I think they had 6 penalties for 70-some yards last week, and that's been a continuing trend. So I do think Pitt has the ability, certainly on offense, to keep North Carolina State in the game and maybe give some chances that the Wolfpack don't necessarily deserve when you're talking about breaks. I have a hard time seeing this North Carolina State offense continually running the ball or moving the chains against this Pitt defense. Maybe they can score on some big plays, but I think sustained drives are going to be really hard to come by. This is also a big trip for this team. I know, they did go to Blacksburg. That's just kind of down the road for you guys. I don't know if did they fly or did they take the bus?
No, they actually took 8 buses. I think it was 10 players per bus to Blacksburg, just to make sure everybody could space out and do their social distance on the bus. And I thought Coach Doran was joking, but when I arrived at Blacksburg last week, I had to go pick up my credentials from the hotel they were staying at. And sure enough, there were 8 buses parked out in front of the hotel. So, yeah, they definitely spaced out last week going to Blacksburg. They typically fly to Blacksburg, too, from Raleigh, which is weird to me. But they took the buses just to be safe can't take buses to Pittsburgh if you're a college football team. So they're going to fly out. I think he said they're going to make sure there's an empty seat between each player on the plane. So I don't know if they're going to take 2 planes or what, but no, they're definitely flying up. They're going to try to stay safe and make sure this game is played.
I think that's an interesting part about this season is that generally when you talk about going on the road, you talk about the crowd noise first and foremost, and the playing in front of an empty stadium obviously gets rid of that. But I still think traveling in the pandemic is presenting some unique challenges to some teams. Pitt hasn't been on the road yet, so I haven't seen the team I cover go through that. But I think as we saw Syracuse come in here and as we saw Louisville come in here, I definitely think that there's a bit of just unsettled and out of routine. We know football coaches love to be in their routine. I just think that traveling, at least until this becomes a new routine, is going to be difficult for some of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, even though NC State was on the road last week and they played at Blacksburg at night, which you want to play there at night with no fans if you're a visiting team. But I think some of the players were even like, it took us a while to get used to how quiet it was in there. Because even though you are the visiting team, you still can get hype and get some energy off that home crowd booing you and just the music playing and the energy in the stadium. So that wasn't there for NC State. Their parents were allowed to come in the stands, but they were sitting at the upper level behind the cardboard cutout. So their parents weren't even right there on the field to kind of yell in their ear and give them some energy. So a couple of players did, like I said, they said pregame was weird. They didn't have the juices flowing like they normally would have on the road or at home. So yeah, it's unique for sure.
Yeah, we still actually don't even know if there will be fans at Heinz Field this Saturday. They've not made an announcement. Pitt has been going back and forth with the governor's office about trying to at least get families into the game, or maybe the band. So far, the first 3 games have had no spectators whatsoever outside of some media. So it's been a very empty yellow bowl at Heinz Field. Maybe they'll have some this Saturday, I guess. I don't know. You'll be coming up to make the trip, though?
No, I won't be making the trip this time because of, pandemic reasons. We were instructed to not get our hopes up about flying to away games. So I won't. I've only been to Pittsburgh once. I was looking forward to coming this time of the year. The last time I came was February of 2015. It snowed the entire time. So I was looking forward to coming to Pittsburgh with no snow in the forecast, but unfortunately, I won't be making the trip.
It is actually, this is the best time of year to come to Pittsburgh. We have the nicest weather in the fall. I'm looking out my window here. We've got some beautiful leaves starting to change. And last Saturday, I came across the bridge there, and there were boats all out on the river, and it almost looked normal until I got into the completely empty parking lot, and then it was weird. But yeah, I wish we could have you up here. And yeah, we're going through the same thing. I don't think Pitt has a terrible travel schedule in the ACC. They've got both Miami and Florida State, Georgia Tech, Clemson, and Boston College. It's basically the 5 farthest opponents they could possibly have. I don't think I'm going to be going to many of those. I am going to Boston College next Saturday, but I think that's probably going to be the only one of those 5 I get to travel to. Weird season for all of us, players, coaches, and everything else. So sorry I won't get to share a sandwich and a drink with you this Saturday, but maybe we'll keep our fingers crossed for basketball season, that things can change. Jonas, thank you so much for joining us today. Jonas Pope with the Raleigh News-Observer. You can find him on Twitter at JEPopeIV. And anything else you want to pimp or give a shout out to?
No, man, just thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and enjoy Saturday, man. Like I said, I wish I could come up there this time of year and see those mountains and see that weather, but at least we do have football, so I'll take that.
We'll take it. It's a nice second place, and yeah, no trips to Carolina for me on the schedule this year either. I enjoy going to get some real barbecue every once in a while instead of having to deal with our substitute, that is what it is. Thanks as always, Jonas Pope, and thanks to everyone for watching and listening. Stick with Pittsburgh Sports Now for all of our coverage of Pitt football leading up to and during Saturday's game at Heinz Field, Pitt and NC State. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.